Alright, we finally got to the letters of recommendation that I keep mentioning in other videos. On your application, you will see this section titled Letters of Evaluation, but I will just keep calling them recommendation letters because I know that's how most people refer to them as. Anyways, hopefully this video will give you some insight into how to ask for them, how to get one, and how to send one into the application service that you use. A few requirements you should know about real fast. Each of the three application services allow for a different number of total letters you can send in. AMCAS allows up to 10, AA COMIS allows up to 6, and TMDSAS only allows up to 4. For AMCAS though, you should be careful about sending in too many letters. Remember that these letters are supposed to be very personal and coming from people who know you very well. When you send in an excessive amount of letters, it comes off as you are just randomly selecting people to write your letters and they aren't as personal. But as we go forwards, keep these limits in mind, especially if you are a Texas resident, because 4 might be the magic number for you, while everyone else might go for 5 or 6. Speaking of getting a bunch of letters, let's talk about who they should come from. In general, there are 4 categories of letters that you should try to check off because each letter writer could represent a different aspect of you. The most obvious place to ask for a letter is from your science professors, and that is actually required. Most schools you apply to will actually require at least 2 of your letters to come from science professors. So if you are applying through TMDSAS, you won't be able to hit all 4 of these categories, but that's okay. You just don't want all of them to come from the same place. The second category is getting a letter through an extracurricular observer, something like a community service project leader that has come to know you very well. This is such a miscellaneous category and it can come from really anyone. However, since this category seems the furthest from the medical field, make sure to pick the letter writer wisely. It needs to be someone that knows you personally enough that the letter will blow the readers away. The next category is having a non-science professor write you a letter. This is also usually required by a lot of schools, but only one of these is necessary. It just broadens you as an applicant and shows your ability to excel in a diverse range of academics. The last category, which might be the strongest when you apply, and that is to get it from someone successful in the medical field, a medical professional, if you will. This could be someone you shadow under, someone you work under, someone you scribe for, a doctor, a PA, a nurse, anyone in the medical field that you feel could write a strong letter. But I mean, getting one from a doctor would probably look like the best since you are applying to medical school after all. One thing I do want to mention here is that some of the letters you have written might get combined into a committee letter for your school. If you have some kind of premed committee or advisor at your school, chances are they will actually write you a letter themselves and will combine any and all letters written from professors at your school. This bundle will get sent in all at one time, but each individual letter will count, and I will get into that a bit more later in this video. When you ask for a recommendation letter, there are a few things you absolutely do and a few things to absolutely avoid. First, like I said before, you want to pick a letter writer that knows you well enough to not just write you a bland letter. Second, when you ask, make sure to be very polite and professional about it. That means asking in person if possible, or by sending a professional email instead. I know that a lot of your professors might be busy, so an email could be more realistic, but for people you know outside of school, try your best to either ask in person or call them on the phone. Finally, make sure you constantly say thank you and let this person know just how grateful you are. Just doing that might actually improve the language they use about you when writing the letter. On the other hand, you absolutely want to avoid picking a random person that can't be personal in their letter. I remember having someone write me a letter just because he had a connection with a school I was interested in, but I didn't know the person that much. I found out much later on that it was honestly a terrible letter that could have been submitted for literally anyone. If you are asking someone you are close with, do not just ask them over text. I have also made this mistake in the past, and not only is it embarrassing when they call you out on it, but it's very disrespectful. You are asking them to write you a personal letter, so you owe it to them to be personal in asking them for it. And finally, don't forget to follow up with them once they agree. These are all people who have their own lives and might forget about it from time to time, so a simple and polite reminder every once in a while definitely won't hurt. So just to give you an example of how you can ask, let's pretend you are emailing a professor of yours. Here's one example on how you can structure the initial email. Again, asking in person is always better, But if you can't even reach them on the phone or don't have their number, a professional email is the next best thing. Use professional language like Dear Dr. Blank or ending the message with sincerely instead of just thanks. In the body of the email, make sure to show gratitude for what they did in the past and how it had a positive impact on you. Really hype them up to write this letter for you. Sometimes a professor will respond by asking you a couple of specific questions to get a better idea of what to write in the letter. Something like, what was the most impactful thing you learned in my class? Or, what was your favorite lecture? Make sure you have these things in the back of your mind so that if they respond like that, you are ready. Transitioning to how the letters are actually sent into the application services, let's pretend like whoever you asked has agreed to it and started writing it. The service I would recommend to you, and what AMCAS, TMDSAS, and AA Comus will recommend to you, is Interfoliar Dossier. This website allows for you to receive and send confidential letters that are protected and supported by the application services. Just so you know, it is proper etiquette to not read recommendation letters that are written about you, so you won't actually see what any of these people write about you. Interfolio is the most trusted site in the eyes of these application services, and it does just that. You will send an email through Interfolio to your letter writers so they can upload the letters to your account. Then, you will be able to transfer them to the AMCAS, for instance, through the Interfolio program. In the case that your college doesn't cover the cost of Interfolio for you, I mention it in my cost video, but it's a subscription of about $50 per year. When you create an Interfolio account, navigate on the left to where it says Letters, and then in the top right, you can click Request a Letter. If you look at my letters page, you can see all of the letters that were written for me. The bottom 3 were from professors, and the second from the top was written by a doctor I worked with. The very top one is the committee letter that I mentioned earlier, so when you see the actual letters I submitted, I only submitted 2 to AMCAS and 2 to TMDSAS, because one of them was the committee letter that included the bottom 3 letters. After you click Request a Letter, you will have a page of information to fill out regarding the person who will write you the letter. Make sure to have the confidentiality checked and look for where it says Specific Recommendation. If you click that one, you are able to specify that it is for medical school. At the bottom, you will see a place that you can write out a message that will be generated when you send it to them. Feel free to use this template if you want, just make sure to put your own email in the body of the paragraph where I have it blacked out, and have your name at the end. At the very bottom, you will see a button to add materials. This is a chance for you to send your resume to the letter writer, which might be a good thing for you. Seeing your resume could give them ideas on what to write about you or how to praise you. Once you've done all that, hit the Send Request button and you're all done with that step. Now let's fast forward to when they have actually uploaded the letter and you need to send it to either AMCAS, TMDSAS, or AA Comus. On the left, navigate over to Deliveries and click the New Delivery in the top right. Depending on what service you use, you will have to click on a different thing when you get to this page. You can search for AMCAS and TMDSAS directly in this search bar here, but for AA Comus, you will need to click the confidential letter upload. So let's go through each of the services and what to do for them. Starting with AMCAS, you will actually need to go to your Interfolio account settings first and add your AMCAS ID. There should be a section to add an ID, and once you search for AMCAS, just put in whatever ID matches your AMCAS account. After doing that, you can go back to the search bar I mentioned earlier and type in AMCAS. Click on the application cycle you are applying in and fill out whatever information is relevant. At the bottom, you will need to click this Custom ID button, which will allow you to link the AMCAS ID you put into your account settings. Think of this like putting an AMCAS stamp on the letter before sending it. All of these things are done through Interfolio. In your actual AMCAS application under the Letters of Evaluation section, you will need to add a letter and fill out the same relevant information about the letter that you intend to send. When you complete that, AMCAS will assign an ID to the letter, as you can see here, and you will need to input that into Interfolio so that when you hit send, the letter will be linked to your specific application and can be matched to the information that you put into AMCAS for that specific letter. Then, you just have to wait a few days. Keep checking your application status and you will be able to see when AMCAS has received your letters, if you look for it in the section of that application. TMDSAS works pretty much the exact same with a few exceptions. Add your TMDSAS ID to your account in Interfolio so that when you put in the information, you can select your TMDSAS ID to attach to it. On the actual application, you will add a letter and fill out the relevant information. The difference between that and AMCAS is there will be no letter ID generated that you will have to plug back into Interfolio. Once you submit these letters to TMDSAS, they can take somewhere between 10 to 14 business days, so it is definitely longer to wait for. Keep that in mind, so when you work on your application, you are giving yourself enough time before the deadline for them to receive your letters. As a side note, TMDSAS actually allows letter writers to submit directly to your application, meaning you don't even need Interfolio. When you create a new letter on your TMDSAS application, there is an option to select having the writers submit directly. If you plan on only applying to Texas schools as a Texas resident, this might save you some money, but your pre-med counselor might still want you to use Interfolio, so just make sure to check with them. Finally, AA Comus is a bit different. Instead of searching for it through the search bar that I showed before, you will have to click on the confidential letter upload after selecting new delivery. You also don't need to worry about adding your AA Comus ID to your Interfolio account. Instead, when you select which letters you want to send into Interfolio, you will get assigned a very specific email like you can see at the top. In the AA Comus application, when you add a new letter, you will see this place for an email address like in the bottom picture. That is where you put in the email that Interfolio gave that letter. Since AA Comus is a bit different than the others, I have included a link to a video that shows exactly how to do it. And if you need more help with either TMDSAS or AMCAS, the same creator has made videos on those as well. Once your application has received the letters, then you can rest easy knowing that you are finally done with this part of the application. Remember to occasionally check the status of your application and see if they have received the letters. That way, you can contact Interfolio in the case of an issue or delay.